challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Samueli. With me today, of course, is co-founder of the Gaggle, Peter Lavelle. And it is not our first, it is our second live stream of the new year.
Not many people can say that. Okay.
Not many people can say that. So the live stream Monday, 10 a.m. Everybody pencils down, coffee pot down, kitchen utensils down. Get if you need some, writing pad, to take notes, because there's going to be a lot of weighty stuff.
And there could be a quiz at the end.
Yeah, and there'll be a quiz. There'll be a quiz. It'll be a tough quiz, so there'll be no easy grading here. There's no grade inflation. So how are you, Peter?
Well, we're still jigging out. We're experiencing. We haven't had this much snow since it was recorded 150 years ago. That's how much snow is dropped, and it keeps dropping. And
it's still snowing.
Yeah, I mean, I was telling George yesterday, is one of the miracles of modern technology is that at least Moscow can clear the streets in a day. Oh, my entire tenure here, a day, and it's done. We're 3-4 days in, and they are coping. Oh, coping. It's a really extraordinary. They have, again, this is 100. Last time it was like this was 150 years ago. And for Russia, that's a big deal.
I guess the global warming has to be put on the back burner for a little bit.
I mean, we were commenting on it yesterday. Is that what I see is more and more mild winters until now.
Right. It's true they were little milder, but even for you, they weren't that mild. But I did notice that in Hungary, we've had 5 mild winters, but that's the way life is. I mean, it's always been like that. You have a series of mild winters, and then you have harsher winters. I mean, it's always like that. I mean, so there's nothing unusual about that. And 10 years, let's say 10 years of mild winters, that's nothing. I mean, 10 years. What the hell's 10 years in the history of the planet? So it doesn't mean anything. Anyway, one thing that Peter, that we haven't discussed has been the statement of the UK Defence Minister, John Healey. This is no laughing matter. There's no.
But it's telling. It's
telling. So let's see what happened. So what happened was that John Healey, expounded, following the abduction of President Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela. He was in Ukraine, and he was asked, "Well, hey, whom would you like to see arrested?" And it was not surprising what his answer was. So let's take a look here. Here's the article from the Telegraph, and here it is. And here it says, Healey, I would kidnap Putin. Defense Secretary says he would hold Russian leader to account for war crimes. The Defense Secretary has said he would kidnap Vladimir Putin to hold him accountable for his war crimes. John Healey made the remark on a one-day visit to Kiev on Friday, just hours after Russia launched a barrage of missile attacks against Ukraine. And then on a visit to the site of a drone strike on a high-rise residential building, he told Kiev Independent that given the option of being able to kidnap any world leader, he would take Putin into custody and hold him to account for war crimes. So that was the UK Defense Secretary. And strangely enough, no one really commented on this this statement, because you'd have to wonder who exactly would go in and take out Putin. I mean, the UK, UK paratroopers were planning on going in. So it was very, and then Zaharova today, or I think maybe it was yesterday, she gave an interview to some Russian TV station. And I haven't seen the actual comment, so I'm only going by the English translation. But she said something like, well, this is the wet dream of perverts. So obviously the idea there is that the British are all perverts, and so which is
Well,
generally
she's not the
always
first
been the
person. She's
assumption.
not the first
Most,
person. She's
no,
not the first
exactly.
person.
Most of the world has always operated on that assumption. So but nonetheless, it's very interesting though that he makes this kind of a statement. So
Well, I mean, it shows impotence because he knows they can't do it. Okay, he shows weakness and being snarky. But that being snarky really it's helpful right now, isn't it? It's real helpful.
right,
Okay, and particularly, what the Europeans should be concerned with. Russia doesn't want to go to war with the EU or with NATO. So they should turn their attention to who is threatening NATO, and it's Donald Trump.
right.
I mean, let's talk about emphasis right now.
Right.
Okay,
Well, that of course is very interesting because right now in Europe they're all blustering and so on about in fact Trump, which is very odd given that for all this time they've been telling us that the real problem is Russia. We're facing this threat from Russia. Anyway, Georgia Maloney
a
had,
personal a personal fave.
yes, exactly. Georgia Maloney. Yeah. At least is a fave because we always like her facial expressions.
Yeah,
always they're always very expressive, and at least through her facial expressions, she kind of expresses the view I think of every man towards these pompous bores that surround her at all these meetings.
yeah,
And you
exactly. I mean, if you're gonna have to listen to all this pablum, at least you can look at her.
Yes, exactly. And the thing is that it really you really get a sense that I've always had this feeling that when you go to these meetings, this is really hard work. I mean, you have to sit there for several hours listening to these really boring speeches that you've heard, 100,000 times before, and you have to look interested. I mean, now Biden, of course, tended to nod off, um, but you have to look interested, and she kind of doesn't go along with the protocol. And she just looks exactly the way you would expect to look because I can't listen to Macron one more time. I've had it.
It's,
Just can't do it.
she's probably saying, "Where's the buffet?" Okay.
Yeah, but you can't do it. You're sitting at the desk. You just can't. You can't
Well,
just
it's
go off
interesting.
and I'm going to get a bun now.
One of these endless meeting, like it's really getting difficult to keep track of all of them. But I'm sure Trump made sure that she sat next to him, okay, because he probably hates these meetings too,
Right, right,
okay, and he kept looking at her, deferring to her.
right.
I mean, and that's also a mechanism to avoid all the rest of them. I mean, do you, there's no way in the world that Trump likes any of these people.
No,
Okay,
no.
I think he probably has a fondness for Maloney. Okay,
Right.
he caused trouble for him.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's right. And but anyway, Maloney the other day came out with this startling statement, really, really startling. She said that, well, maybe, just maybe, might be an idea to open a dialogue with Russia. You think, well, this is, after 4 years, you think, well, you think, I mean, might be an idea. I mean,
Just
instead of,
spitballing, just spitballing.
boy, she's earning her paycheck for that. Anyway, so here's the Politico story about that, and there she is, and says that Maloney joins Macron in urging European talks with Russia. Now, there's always something of a bit of a misnomer whenever you say joins Macron, as if Macron has this very firm position. Oh, I want talks with Russia. He just says this one day out of the blue, doesn't really follow up on it. Says the opposite the next day and the day after. But somehow he becomes associated with this position. Oh, we need to have talks with Russia. Just like he was before, he was associated with the position of we have to put in troops into Ukraine. We're gonna have to put European troops into Ukraine. You remember that? That was it February 24? I think that was the Macron thing. So none of these kind of statements of Macron can be taken to be serious positions. But anyway, here she says, um, Italian Prime Minister suggests appointing a special envoy for discussions with Moscow. You think, why not just open discussions? Why do you need to already appoint a special envoy?
Well, I mean, okay, first of all, there is this woman named Kaya Kalas.
Yes,
So that's a slight to her. I mean, that's a slight of omission. Okay,
right.
and then we
No,
had Fitzo, one just came right out and said we've got to get rid of this lady.
yep,
Okay,
yep, yep,
I mean,
yep,
really.
yep, yeah, that's right.
And what we can we like to parse words, and Maloney is being very, very careful because why didn't she say, "Well, I'll go,"
Mhm.
or maybe a poll should go, or maybe no. She wants she's looking at von der Leyen and we're as a block, as we do it in unity, solidarity. She's really trying to thread a needle right here. Okay,
Right.
I'm sure her people, when they showed her the political, she's joining Macron. She probably blew a fuse. She doesn't want to have anything to do with that guy.
Right.
Okay, no,
Right.
but I mean, this was a direct, I mean, indirect, but for us, it's a direct attack on Kaya Kallas. I mean, she is just a complete train wreck for the European on everything,
Right.
on everything.
On everything. But it is instructive because how did Kaya Kallas get that position? It was Ursula von der Leyen who pushed Kaya Kallas. I mean, that's who von der Leyen wanted in that job. She knew exactly what Kaya Kallas would deliver. And they all know this. Maloney knows this. Fitzo knows this. Orban knows this. This woman is just obsessively filled with this hatred of Russia. There's nothing else to her other than this hatred for Russia.
And she's no challenge to von der Leyen.
No, she's not a
Von der Leyen
challenge.
would not see her because if and look, I mean, Kaya Kallas is a low octane thinker. I mean, seriously, okay, and that's exactly what von der Leyen wants. She wants
Right.
these underlings that will just mimic what she wants to say, because von der Leyen is a person of limited intelligence, limited ability, and she feels threatened by anyone
Right.
they can walk and chew gum.
That's right. Then that's right. But it's interesting because von der Leyen knew what she was getting when she hired Kaya Kallas. So
Right,
that's
exactly.
your foreign minister, and then her defense commissioner is also another guy from the Baltics. So basically, your defense and your foreign policy portfolio are in the hands of the Balts. And you know exactly what you're getting with these people. I mean, every day they're telling you something else about how we need to go to war with Russia, like yesterday. So that, yeah, absolutely. That Maloney was really getting at Kaya Kallas, but you also can't entrust. I mean, there's no way you can entrust diplomacy to Kaya Kallas. I mean, she's going to be the special envoy. She's going to go and talk to Moscow. But anyway, here's this article, and she joins Macron, and then says, Maloney said that she agreed with French President Emmanuel Macron, who last month called for a new dialogue with the Kremlin. Russian President Vladimir Putin expressed readiness to engage in dialogue with Macron. Moscow said in response. Moscow always says that. We're always to any dialogue.
Yep.
And then Maloney, I believe the time has come for Europe to also speak with Russia, Maloney told a press conference in Rome on Friday. If Europe speaks to only one of the two sides on the field, I fear that the contribution it can make will be limited. Yeah,
No
generally,
lies detected. No lies detected.
that's right. That's the thing about diplomacy. See, diplomacy works when everybody is engaged in a dialogue. I mean, if somebody, one of the parties to a conflict is not part of the dialogue, then it isn't really diplomacy. Maloney
Yeah, I
also,
mean, particularly, it's everything that we've seen. That's why George and I have kind of thrown up our arms. They, what they pass off as diplomacy negotiations is talking among themselves.
That's exactly. That's right. Maloney also emphasized that Italy would not join France and the UK in sending troops to Ukraine to guarantee a potential peace deal, because it was not necessary if Ukraine signed a collective defense agreement with Western allies modeled on NATO's Article 5 collective defense provision. She suggested that a small contingent of foreign troops would not be a serious deterrent against a much larger Russian force. This whole thing about these Article 5 like guarantees is completely meaningless, but it's something going with, that's, Maloney's baby. Oh, Article 5 like guarantees. Oh, Ukraine is in NATO, but not in NATO, and nobody knows what the hell that means. But that's classic kind of EU type of posturing. Yeah. Oh well, this is our distinctive EU position, so we'll have Article 5 like guarantees without actually Ukraine being in NATO, and then everyone's puzzled. What the hell does that mean? But that's the point. And well, at least this is a distinct position. This is no.
And there's even if something as bizarre as that would come to pass, it would be the Ukraine would have every reason to break the ceasefire.
Right.
They would want it to be invoked.
That's right. That's right. It's very interesting that Maloney has kind of gone down this path. I mean, a lot of people were expecting Maloney to be, to break ranks with the other big kind of NATO powers on Ukraine. I mean, no one really thought that. Well, she'll be kind of an Orban. But
no, George, we did a video on this. Remember? I remember
long
very
time
clearly.
Ago, we did, absolutely.
Everyone expected Mussolini, and what they got was Tony Blair. I remember that.
That's right. Anyway, this so this article goes on, and so then she goes. Oh, that's it's over. So that was the Maloney, and then I want to talk a little bit in a moment about the Greenland, because there's been kind of a later development on Greenland. But I want to talk about Trump and Iran. And so he held yet another one of those impromptu news conferences that he likes to do aboard Air Force One, and he said a variety of things on Iran, which I think is worth looking at. Now, I do think, though, that when it comes to Trump, I mean, one aspect. I mean, we talked a lot about Trump yesterday. Is he John McCain? But one aspect of Trump that we haven't really examined is, look, his presidency comes to an end. The Democrats, of course, we know if they regain the House, they'll impeach him. That's right. But that will fail. But they will impeach him after he ceases to be president. Even after he leaves office, they'll impeach him. And there's always a possibility that they could convict him, and then the immunities will not apply to him. He won't enjoy immunity anymore. And then there will be. I mean, the Democrats have not abandoned the project of criminally prosecuting Trump. I mean, they're planning on this. So, given that, and given his experience of the last 4 years during his 4 years of exile, and who stuck by him? Well, who stuck by him are a lot of Zionist Jews, and all the various Dershowitz. So you have to think that's one aspect of the Trumpian worldview as to whom will he rely on. It's all very well MAGA this, MAGA that, and Marjorie Taylor Greene, but how much money do you have? How many billions can you command? Because my legal fees are going to be quite steep.
You heard it first here, everybody. George has an amazing working theory. I'm all in on it. I absolutely agree. Absolutely, and that answers the question.
Right.
Why is he doing what he's doing for Israel? George gave the most definitive, plausible
right
answer.
I think so, and it's one.
I think you're right.
Yeah, no, and that's why you always look at, well, why is he doing it? In other words, yes, he's not seeking re-election, but he's thinking about his
He wants to stay out of
post-presidency.
jail.
He wants to stay out of jail because he knows these people, they aren't going to let go. They're going to come after him. They're going to use the moment they get their hands on the DOJ and everything else, they're going to come after him. And really throughout the rest of his life. I mean, he's not a young man, obviously, so they're going to be pursuing him, and so therefore he's going to need a lot of money to keep him out of jail, and all these people,
And just not money, but influence.
money and
Okay,
influence.
just like back off. The kind of we could work together, or we could be against each other.
Right, right.
We can
Exactly.
take the easy way, and that's a power dynamic.
Exactly,
Okay,
and that's why it's always
basically saying, I'm going to make the cost for you not just money, but make
right.
the cost for you very high.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly, and that's why you're going to need all of your Bill Ackmans and your the Adel,
Ellison,
Miriam Adelson, and
Ellison's. Okay.
that's right. And there's a reason. So that's the reason why he holds them before the cameras. Hey, come on, Miriam. Yeah, hey, you know, why is it, with this elderly woman, why is he bringing her forward? Putting, hey, I'm putting you up,
No, George, and then this snatching up of media assets. Obviously, in the present moment, it is to shield Israel and to control the narrative. But we can extend it using your theory:
Yep.
is that ZBS will be out there to push back against
Right,
the impeachment process.
right,
Okay,
right.
okay. So it's just not just about a foreign policy. It's
Yep.
very much about a demand, because they want to keep um, they will keep that narrative of lie, and that he did the right thing constantly.
Right,
Or he made mistake, blah blah,
right,
all
right,
this thing.
right.
But he had the best of intentions. Okay,
That's
because Trump will leave, but the Israeli lobby won't.
That's right. That's right. And so we always look at Alan Dershowitz, because Dershowitz is always he's always a marker. He's very close to Netanyahu, very close to all these powerful Zionist billionaires. And look at what Dershowitz did. Dershowitz, he defended Trump in the first impeachment, and then he wrote a book, Get Trump. I mean, so he wrote a whole book, defending him, and he's now again defending Trump. So you think, okay, well, that's already very instructive. The way Alan Dershowitz, always associated with the Democratic Party and all liberal causes, and that he's so ardently defending Trump. Anyway, here was Trump aboard Air Force One talking about Iran. So let's take a look. So it's us
He's,
has
yeah,
Iran.
but he's not speaking to the gaggle. He's having a gaggle. Okay.
Exactly. That's right. He pressed gaggle. So he was asked about has Iran crossed a red line?
It looks like, and there seem to be some people killed that aren't supposed to be killed. These are violent. If you call them leaders, I don't know if they're leaders or just they rule through violence. But we're looking at it very seriously. The military is looking at it, and we're looking at some very strong options. We'll make a determination.
Which options have you been briefed on? Are you meeting with senior officials?
Am I going to really? Are you asking me to say what will they do? Where will we attack? When? And at what angle will we attack from?
Are you considering? I'm with the U.S. White House TV. I'm wondering, are you being briefed on options? I'm with CNN, sir.
I'm with CNN. She says I'm with the White House pool. And I say, what? You're with CNN. You're with fake news. Because CNN is fake news. Go ahead, give me a question.
Can I ask how you're balancing and how you're deciding your response, the balance between helping protesters?
You see how he rolled his shoulders?
Yes. Yes.
I mean, some of the protesters were killed through the stampeding. I mean, there's so many of them. And some were shot. But we get a full report. I'm getting an hourly report, and we're going to make a determination.
So that was so he's getting his but what always was so interesting here he is, so upset about the dealing with protesters. What exactly is any government supposed to do when there are clearly riots? And rioters are using violence. Rioters are burning government buildings. What is there a government that accepts this and thinks that this is fine? Um,
Well, and particularly, I mean, I don't know to what extent his own intelligence community tells him the truth, but it's the American intelligence community, Mossad, MI6, that are
right, right,
that tell the
exactly.
truth, fueling all of this.
That's right,
Okay,
exactly. That's
and
exactly
and to update everybody, this is the beginning of the second day of massive pro-government demonstrations. So
yeah.
this attempt to undermine Iran from
Yes,
within failed again.
right. Um, anyway, here is is talking some more here.
Companies.
Are you going to send Starlink to Iran, sir, to help the people in the
So
ground?
you ask him, are you sending Starlink to Iran?
With the internet blackout for more than 72 hours?
We're talking about that. We may get the internet going, if that's
Are
possible.
you talking to us
We may
about
speak to Elon, because as you know, he's very good at that kind of thing. He's got a very good company. So we may speak to him. And in fact, I'm going to call him as soon as I'm finished with you.
specifically? Iran said that they would consider military and commercial bases as legitimate targets if you struck. Are you concerned?
So the question is, Iran has said they consider, U.S. military and commercial bases as legitimate targets if United States attacks.
We'll consider things targets that they wouldn't believe. If they do that, we will hit them at levels that they've never been hit before. And they won't even believe it. I have options that are so strong. So I mean, if they did that, it'll be met with a very, very powerful force.
I think Iran takes their threats seriously.
Don't you think so, CNN? Don't you think so? Would you say that they probably do at this point? After going through it for years with me, being hit, Soleimani, al-Baghdadi, the Iran nuclear threat wiped out. Don't you think? And then you just had Venezuela.
Look at her adoring eyes.
Yes, I do. Yes,
Take
yes.
your threat seriously. You say they do after all of the things we've done. What a stupid question.
Trump's news conferences are just always hilarious. What a stupid question.
We got 3 more years of this too.
People went on about how with Nixon and his antagonistic relationship with the press, but Nixon never talked like that. I mean, he would have loved to, but he never talked like that. What a stupid question.
Only this president has.
That's right, exactly. No one else has done that. Yeah. And Reagan was, of course, always very, very, very friendly. It was just that's not in
Oh,
his.
I remember with George and I got to date ourselves here, but Iran Contra was hitting a boiling point, and there was a press approach, and the tension, you could cut it with a knife. The tension was so intense, and then all of a sudden Nancy Reagan comes out with a birthday cake and starts singing happy birthday. And the entire press joined in, broke the spell.
Yes, that's exactly that. That's so typical of Nancy. Um, and then one last question, which is quite interesting.
No way. We're putting a 1-year cap at 10%, and that's it. They know it. They've really abused the public. The credit card companies have totally abused it. I'm not going to let it happen.
Is that something willingness from Iran to engage diplomatically?
So the question is Iran engaging diplomatically with you?
With Iran,
Yeah, engage diplomatically.
they do. They called
They called you.
yesterday.
Is it still an option?
Iran called to negotiate.
Yesterday.
Yesterday, the leaders of Iran called. They want to negotiate. I think they're tired of being beat up by the United States.
Are you sure you can on that call?
Iran wants to negotiate. Yes.
Negotiate
We
what?
may meet with them. I mean, a meeting is being set up. but we may have to act because of what's happening before the meeting. But a meeting is being set up. Iran called. They want to negotiate. Thank you very much.
All right, so that was this thing that Iran called and they want to negotiate. But one of the things that is emerging in just even in news reports, even the New York Times reports, is first of all the violence on the part of the rioters, and the cries for the return of Pahlavi, which is something new. Never had this before. That this is this Pahlavi. Now, who's behind Pahlavi?
You noticed it all over Twitter?
Yeah,
All
exactly.
over Twitter.
Now, who's pushing Pahlavi? Because it's hard to believe anyone in Iran that no one has ever expressed any desire for a return of the Pahlavis. They were driven out in 1970. They didn't even want the Pahlavis. I mean, that was something that was the British kind of restored the young Shah to the throne after World War II. Nobody really wanted him. So when he departed in 1979, that was it. And so the whole idea that we want the Pahlavis back. This is someone who he left as I think he was about 19 years old when he left with his father. He hasn't lived in Iran since he was 19. So the idea that there's people in Iran supposedly crying out for a return to the Pahlavis, this is not believable. Now, there are Iranian emigres, there are Iranians living in the West, and of course, Israel. So here's the the story in this is first of all, just as what you were saying about the question of first of all, here's Trump is seriously inclined. This is the Jerusalem Post. He'll be Iranian protesters. And then it says on Sunday, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu convened a small group of ministers and senior security officials to discuss the situation in Iran. Among other issues, Israel has made several decisions at this stage, namely not to intervene publicly in Iran, to allow the U.S. to lead any assistance measures for protesters, and to prepare for the possibility that Iran may decide to launch ballistic missiles at Israel to divert any attention from protesters. And then you have Israel is closely monitoring what's happening in Iran and so on. Now here's the New York Times says, as death toll surges in Iran, leaders take tough line against protesters. And then here's one. It says one factor in the mass mobilization of the past 4 days has been the calls to the streets by some activist groups and by Reza Pahlavi, son of the Shah, who was deposed in 1979. Videos from many protests shows that chants supporting the Pahlavis, anathema to previous Iranian protest movements over the past decade, are increasingly common. You think, well, that is very, very odd.
I think this is just an op. I just don't see it.
I agree. Yeah, I absolutely agree. Yeah.
And what you see, it's very insidious. It's very cruel. Is that the many of the individuals, at least in some of the videos I've seen. Again, I always take everything with a grain of salt when I see this stuff on Telegram, but it looks like a normie walking down the street. Then he's swarmed, and then he's beaten badly, and then crowds say, "Oh, kill him!"
Right.
And then in many cases, burn them.
Right.
And then the security forces show up. They use lethal force against the people that are beating the guy, and the mayhem only increases. What happens, everyone? An innocent person gets hit. Okay, when the bullets start flying, that's exactly what these people want. Okay, but I mean, some of these things are so sloppy. You can look at some of these videos, and it's like, well, why do you have like Hollywood lighting shining in? I mean, it's so amateurish. It's so obviously patently propaganda.
Right. But this is what.
And with the internet shut down, who's looking at this? Where are the millions of clicks coming from? It's not coming from within Iran because The internet is down.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly. So here was the this is the Jerusalem Post. In the Jerusalem Post, on the issue of Mossad, which is kind of very interesting. And here we have so Mossad spurs Iran protests, say agents with demonstrators in Farsi message. As protests grow across Iran, the Mossad posted an unusual Farsi message urging demonstrators to act, saying it is with them in the streets amid rising economic pressure and public unrest. On
Yeah,
Monday,
I think they're literally within in the streets with them,
I think so too.
literally, and a lot of these are Kurds. Okay,
Mm,
okay. George and I talked about this yesterday. Iran has a very porous border, and much to their disadvantage,
right, right.
at least.
Yeah. Um, it says on Monday, the Mossad used its Twitter account in Farsi to encourage Iranians to protest against the Iranian regime, telling them that it will join them during the demonstrations. Go out together into the streets. The time has come, the Mossad wrote. It continued, we are with you, not only from a distance and verbally, we are with you in the field. This is Mossad. This isn't the Iranians who are saying this. This isn't coming from the Iranian government. This is Mossad. We are with you, not only from the distance and verbally, we are with you in the field. And then the statement was a rare open acknowledgement from the Mossad regarding ongoing operations in Iran. In June, the Mossad had hundreds of agents involved in Israel's 12-day war, which set back Iran's nuclear program, ballistics missile air defense system, and killed dozens of top military and intelligence officials. Following the war, Mossad director David Barnea released a rare statement foreshadowing the spy agency's activities in Tehran, telling the general public that Israel will continue to be there like we have been there. The Twitter statements were issued as Iran protests spiked over the collapse and so on. So, so Israel, openly acknowledges that it's involved, boasts about it, as did Mike Pompeo, the former U.S. Secretary of State. Oh yeah, this is, we're there. This is Mossad is there. So when you have that, when you have Mossad, I mean, why then we think, well, why are we in fact even discussing this? You have the agents of an enemy power whipping up this power. They are not friends of Iran. These are people who are determined to do everything that's possibly harmful for Iran. They're stirring up these riots. Why? Well, because they would like a U.S. intervention, and they want to get.
Well, and plus they want to codify some kind of extreme social and ethnic division within the
Yeah.
country. Better to have them fighting among themselves
Yes.
than
No, exactly. That's right.
and that's what they want to do. I mean, this is a form of regime change. I mean, weakening the central authorities of the government and preparing for what you, George, and I strongly believe will be another kinetic assault on Iran. But soften up the ground, as it were. Okay.
Right. Yes. With the question. That's what they I mean, obviously, I think this is the most serious onslaught yet,
Oh,
because
yeah, George. I mean, we talked about this yesterday. I mean, all around the world, affordability is a problem. If it,
right.
maybe
But this is
no, but my point is, beheading somebody,
Right.
burning somebody.
right.
I could see, stoning a government office, okay, and that's extreme because that's violence, But
Right.
I mean, picking out normies and beating the shit out of them. No, this is all planned and intentional.
Right, exactly. And I think this has happened precisely at the moment when this is, Iran's international position has been gravely weakened. I mean, they've lost an ally, they've lost Syria, they've lost Hezbollah, and they're pretty much kind of on their own. So this is, and then there were, of course, the joint U.S.-Israeli attack last year, and so you say, okay, that this is the moment to pounce. And then there was Netanyahu, who was in Mar-a-Lago just a few days ago. What a coincidence! You know, wow, who'd have thunk? I mean, we're always thinking, oh, it's all about this. They're planning an attack on ballistic missiles, but much more likely that this was it. They were preparing for this onslaught. But anyway, so just going back to that New York Times article about Pahlavi, and it says amid the growing here we go. Amid the growing violence, Pahlavi, who lives in exile, urged protesters in a video statement not to abandon the streets. President Trump, as the leader of the free world, has closely observed your indescribable bravery and has declared that he is ready to help you, he said. And then the protests in recent days have not only grown significantly in size, but also appear to have become increasingly violent on both sides. Government buildings have been set ablaze while Iran Chief of Police, Brigadier General Ahmad Reza Radan, blamed the deaths and injuries on unpaid soldiers of Iran's enemies. A significant portion of those killed died from bladed weapons and knife wounds. In cases involving gunfire, the shooting distance was very close, indicating that these actions were not carried out by security forces, but by trained and directed elements, General Radan said. Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. And then here's again, then there's the Times. So I remember when the issue of Pahlavi came up, and it was Alan Dershowitz. That was the first time I'd heard this as being seriously the restoration of Pahlavi. I mean, because I thought this is a joke. I mean, are you serious? But it was interesting. Dershowitz brought this up. Yeah, I think it was in a debate with Glenn Greenwald, and I think Greenwald asked him like, well, okay, well, if not the Ayatollahs, who do you think is suitable to run Iran? And then he suddenly came up with Pahlavi. And you think, well, so he.
Yeah, I don't think it was his idea. I think
it was his idea either. So I thought, then I realized, okay, somebody's obviously pushing this. He doesn't. You don't just go sit there and you just come pluck a name out of the air and say, oh, what a great idea. Let's bring back Pahlavi. And of course, it is. I mean, people forget what it was like in 1979. It's very rare for the entirety of Iranian society to unite in that way. Yeah. The elimination of a leader. I mean, this wasn't the Ayatollahs or anyone. This was across the board. I mean, Pahlavi had no support anywhere. No one wanted him to stay. I mean, he barely got.
That's why he had to leave. He had to escape.
And I remember when he was leaving, he said, "Well, I'll be back." Yeah, right. He'll be back. I think the Americans arranged this so at least he could get out alive. And then Jimmy Carter, bizarrely said that he can come in for medical treatment. Well, it was bizarrely. I mean, Carter was he was a decent sort. He thought, well, that Pahlavi was sick, and so should let him come enter the United States to get medical treatment, and that of course led to the seizure of the U.S. embassy. But that I think was the turning point, because I think up until that moment, relations were not so terrible between the new rulers and the United States, but allowing in Pahlavi into the United States, I think that triggered the whole thing, and then the seizure of the embassy, and then from then on, there was never any possibility of any reconciliation between the United States.
Because everybody, you see this demonization of the Ayatollahs and all of that. Well, George and I remember very clearly, the Khomeini. He got neutral coverage, I would say. He was in Paris. Right. People were interviewing him and like, what's this all about? And he did his forgive me for if I used the wrong word, sermon and they would be all put on the little cassettes, and they would
Right.
be copied, and they would be sent to it. And there was just kind of a curiosity about it. There was
Right.
no demonization.
No,
No,
no, no.
not at all. It's just like, who is this guy, and why is he so popular?
That's
Okay.
right. And it's very interesting because, going back in time, when the Shah's regime was obviously collapsing, um, the United States, the only concern that they had was that the communists not come to power, because Iran had a very powerful communist party, the Tudeh party, and that was the United States' concern. So the clerics were not a problem. They said, yeah, we can work with the clerics. We worked with them with Mossadegh, because Mossadegh was hated by the clerics. I mean, Mossadegh saw himself as a kind of a he was the equivalent of Ataturk. He was going to be
Yeah, exactly.
secularization and everything else. The clerics declared war on Mossadegh. So when they overthrew Mossadegh, it was with help from the clerics, including Khomeini. So
Exactly. I mean, the Ataturk is a very good reference, because he wanted modernization. He wasn't against West. I mean, that wasn't even a question. I mean, because in his mind, modernization was Westernization. Yeah, and so yeah. I mean, everything is skewed when you look backwards. Okay, but the clerics were not happy with Mossadegh at all.
no, they absolutely not, and they
And
worked
everybody
together.
always say, "Oh, it's about nationalization of oil." Well, that was one of many, many issues.
Right. That's right. That's right. That's right. So that was a remarkable thing. So for the United States, they said, okay, well, we've lost the Shah, but we can work with the clerics, because they're very conservative. They don't like the communists. We know they don't like the communists, and so because that was really their concern. If the communists come to power in Iran, then that's a huge boost for the Soviet Union, and that was a real concern. And so the Soviet Union will gain Iran. And so when Khomeini, basically, he wasn't going to share power with the communists. He immediately declared war against the communists. So the whole thing has been very strange. This antagonism between the clerics and the United
Well,
States.
and at the time we got the first Satan, the great Satan,
Yeah,
the United States. But what other country was a Satan?
yeah, the Soviet
The
Union.
Soviet Union.
Yeah, yeah. The Soviet Union, exactly, that's exactly, and Khomeini, he supported the Mujahideen in Afghanistan. I mean, he completely turned against the Soviet Union, and essentially supported the Holy War against the Soviets. I mean, he hated Marxism. He understandably absolutely hated Marxism and secularization and everything associated with it. So it's this bizarre aspect of this whole thing, this anti-Iran feeling, and this has gone on, even all the way up to today, when Soleimani, who should be an ally of the United States, is somehow an enemy, and the United States even assassinated him.
Pahlavi. I mean, it's as if the past didn't exist or something. I mean, because it's absurd on its face. Nobody in Iran they never wanted that family in the first place. Okay.
That's right. But anyway,
And he would be like Machado. Push come to shove, should the United States use kinetic action against the government of Iran? He'd say yes.
Right. Yes, that's exactly that's his view.
Kill my people. Go ahead, kill my people.
That's right, exactly. That is the position he's taking.
Oh,
So
Machado, her name has been. She's thrown her hat into this. She's supporting the Iranian protests. I guess she's got time on her hands.
That's right. But this is where it becomes interesting, because Trump, who clearly explicitly said, "I don't want Machado in power in Venezuela," but he's decided that she really doesn't have any following in Venezuela, which itself is so interesting. I mean, you have all of these people that come on the media. Oh, she won the election. She won. She won. By a 4-1 majority. I mean, amazing. I mean, like it gets bigger and bigger. This is the size of majority. Or the guy was a stand-in for her. Okay. So if that's the case, then why is it that the Americans have said there's no way in the world that she can run Venezuela? She doesn't have the support, and the same logic applies here. If these protesters enjoy this support, if they're so following, why do they need the Americans to come in and help them? I mean, why can't they just take power? I mean, Khomeini was able to take power. He didn't need somebody to come in and hoist him into power.
It was a popular uprising, and even this most of the most hateful critics of contemporary Iranian politics admit that it was a popular uprising.
Right. That's right. That's right. But anyway, here is the
who's talking about my tie? Who plays Mr. Lavelle's ties in the majority of the? What do you mean? I mean tie my ties? I don't play with my ties.
Who plays in the plays Mr. Tie? I mean, what does that mean? Plays somebody acts. Is your
I am not AI. I'm real. Okay. All right.
So here's Pahlavi, and here's Reza Pahlavi, son of Iran's deposed Shah and a figure of Iran's opposition in exile, said he supported U.S. intervention to support a mass protest movement against Iran's theocratic rulers, and issued a direct plea to President Trump to get involved. So again, yes, please, can you drop bombs on my country and kill people, please?
I can return on the back of an American tank. Okay.
Yes. Mass protesters have been emboldened by Mr. Trump's warnings that he could strike the Iranian government if peaceful protesters were killed. Mr. Pahlavi said in an interview on Fox News. Of course, he says that on Fox News. And then it says, asked directly during the interview with Maria Bartiromo whether he wanted U.S. forces to take out Khamenei, Mr. Pahlavi said the people of Iran have responded and reacted positively to a promise of intervention. He added that we need to cut the snake's head off for good. It can no longer be a threat to Iranians' interests, to American interests, to regional interests. And the only solution is to make sure this regime goes down for good and the Iranian people can liberate themselves. Well, how do they liberate themselves if it's up to the Americans to take out Khamenei? I mean,
obviously that was a memorized reaction. Okay,
right.
That was and that his answer. That's the answer to any question that would have been asked by Bartiromo. He could have given the same answer.
That's right. That's right. So now the question then is on the use of force. The question of so far there's no evidence that the Americans have brought any forces to bear into that region. They haven't brought in any additional aircraft carriers or any of the usual stuff that you need if you're going to launch an attack. So you kind of have to then wonder. Trump is a very devious person. I mean, when he says that, we're thinking about strikes on Iran, that doesn't mean that that's what he's thinking. He may have other plans in mind, just like he had something else in mind when he came to Venezuela. So we don't know exactly what he's thinking, and that's why I thought it was interesting when he ended with that news conference when he said, well, I'm engaged in negotiations. They're negotiating with me. So you then have to wonder, well, is that part of what he's trying to do here? In other words, he's going to try and do a Maduro-like thing, because I don't know if there may be an American person there that they want to install in power, but he may be that he's trying to negotiate something. In other words, he'll just simply say, okay, well, if we're ready to, we're going to give up all nuclear enrichment. That could relieve some of the pressure from the United States.
I don't believe that there are any talks for negotiations. I'm sorry. I just dismiss it out of hand. Okay. Mm-hmm. What that could mean, it gives, this psyop of these, this massive domestic disturbance is burnt itself out. Okay.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure it's burnt itself.
Okay. Well, this time next week we'll be able to say that one way or another, I think. But it could also be giving Trump a way out. Okay,
Yeah,
we're
we
going to
always
start.
say that it's a way out, but he may.
Nah, it's hard to.
I mean,
It's
it's hard to know with these things, but um, you'd have to think this is a more serious onslaught than anywhere else. Iran is in a weaker position, and I don't see there's anything implausible about there's some kind of negotiations along the lines that hey, if we agree no more enrichment, you relieve the pressure, and then lift the sanctions.
I don't see it, but we'll see. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know if that's happening. I mean,
Well,
I'm
I
just
don't know.
saying
It's
that
just,
Trump is a very devious person.
yeah, but he plays the entire board
Yeah,
sometimes.
he does.
That's why.
Yeah. So that's why you never know exactly what exactly he has in mind. So when he says, "Oh, we're thinking about military strikes," that's not necessarily the case. That we're going to think of military strikes. He may have other things in mind.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going back to my bow tie here. It doesn't mean I'm a black nationalist or I am a libertarian. I just like bow ties. Okay. So there's nothing more to it than that. Okay. So
Right. Yeah. No, that's it. But anyway, during that,
here we go. Here we go again with the Bavarian chicken farmer. I don't know what, I thought you people had left us alone finally. Okay.
um, yeah. So anyway, so there was he was asked during that Air Force Air Force One news gathering, of course, about Greenland, and it's worth taking another look at at what what he said, because that's he seems more preoccupied with that, I think,
I
than
agree. I agree.
anything else.
No, because
Uh,
this one, it's fun. He's having
yes,
fun.
exactly. Let me just find this. All right, so okay, so here he is.
Greenland, Russia or China will. And I'm not letting that happen.
God.
If we don't take Greenland, Russia or China will take Greenland. And I let that happen.
No, they can offer you. They're like,
Yeah, sure, I'd rather make a deal with them. It's easier. But one way or the other, we're going to have Greenland.
are you okay if that compromises NATO? If NATO effectively ceases to exist?
I'm doing a great job. I'm the one that saved NATO. I'm the one that got them to pay 5% of GDP. Wait a minute. It was 2%, and they didn't pay. Now they're paying 5%. I'm the one that saved NATO. You wouldn't have NATO if I weren't president.
NATO doing that?
Maybe NATO would be upset if I did it. Maybe NATO would save a lot of money. I like NATO. I just wonder whether or not if we needed NATO, would they be there for us? I'm not sure they would. We spend a lot of money on NATO.
Now that is interesting.
Now, what's happened is, as you know, Sleepy Joe Biden gave $350 billion to Ukraine and got nothing for it. I got rare earth back. I got value back far greater than that. And that's what he should have done. Now, if you look at what's going on with respect to NATO, we have a very good relationship. 5% GDP, and we send them military equipment, and they pay us back the full cost of the equipment. The war, if we make money with the war.
Sorry. So then he came back. All right. Well, let's then continue then to this.
I don't even want to talk about that. I want to save the lives. They're Russian and Ukrainian lives. I want to save the lives. That's the only reason I'm doing it. This is Biden's war. Should have never happened. Would have never happened if I were president. This is Biden's war. It's not Trump's war. All I can do is stop it. And I think we're making progress toward stopping it, which would be number 9.25. You know what the quarter is, right? Right? Thailand and Cambodia. But I got to stop very quick. I consider that 1/4 of a war.
We're just Have you made a tangible offer to Greenland yet? Have you made an actual offer to Denmark?
Greenland should make the deal because Greenland does not want to see Russia or China take over. They don't go there. It's very far away from Greenland. And Greenland, basically, their defense is two dog sleds. Do you know that?
The Greenland's defense is two dog sleds.
Did you know that?
I just love that, two dog sleds.
Russian destroyers and submarines, and China destroyers and submarines all over the place.
Well, they're not.
In the meantime, are you going
And if it affects NATO, then it affects NATO. But they need us much more than we need them. I will tell you that right now.
All right, so that's
It's so interesting that you get the sense that he has to convince them. He's constantly trying to convince them. For him, everything is obvious, and he's really trying very, very hard. Because the more he talks, the more it gets contradictory and odd. And he's talking about Greenland, but he didn't start the war in Ukraine. That was Biden's war.
He has these things like these talking points, and he never gets tired of repeating himself. So he never gets tired about this 5%. He got them all to pay 5%, even though they're not paying 5%.
And they're not.
But he says that, and then he keeps saying it's not my war, which after a while gets a little odd because, well, you've been president for a year now. So if this war's been going on for 4 years, that's 1 year out of 4. So that's, you can't just simply say, well, it's all Biden, because, well, it isn't. But you do get the sense, and this is what we were talking about yesterday, is I don't see any more peace initiatives. I just don't. I don't.
Oh yeah, I agree.
I don't get where any more peace initiatives on Ukraine are going to come from. I mean, that's so. He keeps saying, "Oh well, I think we're getting there," and whatever. But that's Trumpism. He always has to be upbeat and always has to be optimistic. But I don't see it. I don't know what else. What are they going to talk about? What's there to negotiate? Are you going to go back to the 28 points? I mean, that's already been whittled down to the 20 points, which Russia's already flatly rejected. So now what are you going to do?
Try to affect regime change in Moscow.
Right.
That's what.
Well, that's I think what probably what's going to amount to. Think more along those lines. Some sort of terrorism, assassination, because that whole peace initiatives and peace plans, I think that's gone. I think that's just now completely exhausted.
Yeah.
But anyway,
and because of that, then we will see escalation. We talked about this yesterday. This drone attack on command and control, essentially. That's a serious business here. That's very serious. Okay, and it wasn't the Ukrainians that did it. Okay, it was the Americans and their orbit, MI6 or whatever. Okay, so and that's very well understood in Moscow.
Yeah, exactly.
And you don't have a leader that's like throwing, "Oh, how dare you! Tried to kill me! Throw down the gauntlet." No, the Russians will just, okay, understood. We see what you're doing. Your words don't make a lot of sense most of the time, but we see your actions, and we have taken it on board.
Right. All right. No, that's right. That's right. But just going back to Greenland, so we now have a new plan. This is the UK-German plan.
Great.
To send some kind of a force into Greenland. So here's an article in Bloomberg that says here, UK, Germany talk NATO forces in Greenland to calm US threat, which is very strange because
you only increase the threat. I'm sorry, keep going, George.
Because Trump has sort of said, no, he wants ownership. Then he's not going to settle for anything less than ownership. A group of European countries led by the UK and Germany is discussing plans for a military presence in Greenland to show US President Donald Trump that the continent is serious about Arctic security and to try to tamp down American threats to take over the self-ruling Danish territory. So whenever I read something like this, you feel like I don't think you're listening to what Trump is saying. He's said he wants outright ownership. I mean, he's made that clear. He's not gonna settle for a lease. He's not gonna settle even less. Is he going to settle for more UK, German, or whatever French forces in Greenland? So it's kind of this bizarre thing. We talked yesterday about this Danish ambassador who's going around talking to obscure U.S. congressmen. I mean, that's not going to work.
He had a busy day, didn't he?
So Germany will propose setting up a joint NATO mission to protect.
Okay, you cannot have a NATO mission because the United States is in NATO.
That's,
All of these writers, they can't seem to get their head around that.
that's
what this is why it's such a story.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Exactly. You can't deliver forces to Greenland without U.S. airlift. So you're going to have to ask the United States to provide the airlift facilities to get you to Greenland. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has separately urged allies to step up their security presence in the High North and recently reached out to leaders including Emmanuel Macron and Friedrich Merz to discuss the issue. And then Germany.
See, George, what they're doing is, and Trump will interpret it this way, is that, this is now a land grab. Well, I will grab it first.
Yes.
Because what is the UK and Germany? What are they going to do in Greenland? Who and what armies are going to be there? I mean, right. This is going to only worsen the situation, not calm it.
Right.
British and German soldiers land in Greenland, and Trump is going to say, "Oh yeah, everything's under control." George is right. He wants ownership. Ownership is the goal. And then a derivative of that, well, then we can enhance our security imprint or whatever. Okay, but no ownership. These Europeans, I don't know. Maybe Google Translator doesn't work for them.
That's the idea that you're going to persuade him of this. He's not going to be persuaded. First of all, he doesn't think much of British and German forces to begin with, but he's going to just be annoyed that you're not listening to what he's saying. He said, that you're going to send your forces into Greenland when he's already said we want to take ownership of it. And so here was this foreign minister, Johann Vadeful, who will meet with Marco Rubio this week.
I'm sorry, George, but I mean, can you see how the Ukrainians look at it? So you want to send troops to Greenland to protect Greenland, but you won't send your troops to Ukraine to protect Ukraine.
No, that's right.
And the Russians are the real enemy, okay?
Yes, that's right, yeah.
Again, the irony of all of these things.
Right.
Keep going, I'm sorry.
Yeah. And then Johan says, because security in the Arctic is becoming increasingly important, I also want to discuss on my trip how we can best bear this responsibility in NATO in view of old and new rivalries in the region by Russia and China together. Vadeful said in a statement on Sunday, we want to discuss this together in NATO. But the problem with all of that...
Can you go back? There's a couple of words I think we should parse.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Here we go. I also want to discuss on my trip how we can best bear this responsibility in NATO. So what do you bring to the table?
Exactly.
Nothing. George already said it. If you want to, I'm not a military man. You want to send a couple of companies or a brigade there. How are you going to do that? Do you have the airlift to do that? No, you don't.
They don't have the airlift.
You don't have the airlift.
It's a complicated operation. They don't have the airlift.
Okay, and the facilities, you're going to put them up in a hotel? Do they have enough hotel space there?
That's right.
Or are you going to throw people out of their homes?
Well, exactly. I mean,
because the U.S. will just bring its stuff.
Exactly. That's right. So that's a very good point because there is a U.S. military base, but if the U.S. say, well, you can't use this base, we're using it. So what are you going to do? You're going to start pitching tents, put up tents and a canteen, to make hot coffee because it does get quite cold there. So it makes absolutely no sense. And the idea that you're going to persuade Trump when he's already said that that this is what he wants, and they said, "Well, are you willing to essentially?" But I mean, he was very explicit. Are you willing to sacrifice NATO? He said, well, I don't know, if they want to leave NATO, go ahead. We'll save some money. I mean, she actually said it. We'll save some money. We pay NATO. They said, yeah, I like NATO. The kind of condescending. Oh, I like NATO. I like this person. That.
He
So,
likes everyone. Yeah.
like, oh my God, I like that. But the point is, it says they need NATO more than we do. That's what it's meant. They need NATO, so they're not going to walk out from NATO. So that's what I said. Of course, they're not going to walk out from it. So that's why what Germany, the UK, France are doing makes absolutely no sense. Why are you doing this for Denmark? You care that much about Denmark? I mean, it's not like Britain gets a piece of Greenland, or Germany has a piece of Greenland, or France has a piece of Greenland.
What do you do? Is going to be partitioning of Greenland? So there's going to be the German partition and the British partition, the
Yes.
American partition.
The scramble for Greenland,
The scramble for Greenland.
like the scramble for Africa.
Can we land at your your military base? No.
That's right. No,
Anyway, we're not
absolutely.
we're not going to give you the planes, okay, to land
right.
on our base. Okay.
That's right. Absolutely no. Anyway, let's take a look at our Gaggles page, where the Gagglers come and make sure that the dogs have something to keep them warm during these bitterly cold months, this historic snow drift. So thank you very much, Gagglers. And first question is from a good friend, Stone River. Thank you, Stone River, for generosity. And Stone River says, the president being the commander in chief, I don't see Trump becoming a lame duck after the midterms. It could be a long 3 years. You're right. He is in charge of foreign policy. He becomes a lame duck if he becomes preoccupied with fighting off impeachment. And because impeachment, that takes up a lot of your time. There's a lot of legal work that you have to be getting on with. You're going to spend a lot of time with your lawyers. I mean, that happened during his first term. Spent a lot of time with your lawyers. Nixon spent almost all of his time during Watergate with his lawyers. So it's more a question of that he just will not have the energy to be.
Well, and if he loses majorities in both houses, he won't get any legislation through.
He won't get any legislation. Yeah, he won't get legislation, and he just will not. He just won't be able to focus on these things. Because again, if you look at the Nixon experience, because that was 73, 74, and Nixon was a foreign policy president, which Trump isn't. That was always Nixon's selling point, that he understood foreign policy. He really couldn't focus on that, and that's why he allowed Kissinger essentially to take everything over.
That's how the whole Kissinger epic came into being, because Nixon was distracted, and Kissinger very gleefully filled the void.
Exactly, and pursued, I think, policies, particularly on the Middle East, that I think Nixon did not want. A very pro-Israeli policy, which was clearly what Nixon didn't want. Anyway, thank you very much, Stone River. And then Cynthia, always very good to see you, Cynthia. Thank you so much, as always, for your generosity. Cynthia always has very good, very tough questions to ask, very tough and intriguing questions to ask. Trump repeatedly saying if Iran shoots protesters, all hell will break loose, likely means the U.S. is planning a false flag attack on protesters to justify a U.S. strike on Iran. Okay, so is there a way for Iran to preempt a false flag attack against its own people, like Russia did with the drone attack on Putin, and expose how the U.S. attempted to stage civilian killings as a pretext for war, Surely such an exposure would deter future U.S. attacks and reduce U.S. wars against countries like Iran. Okay, you want to take
Well,
that on?
I think they're already taking those measures. I mean, a lot. This it's disputed. I'll put it that way. But it looks like this psyop is reached its climax, and there's massive, as we speak right now, massive demonstrations, pro-government demonstrations in major cities of Iran. So I think the worst of that psyop is in the past. Now, we have no idea what the next stage is. George and I have always said in the entire history of this podcast, there's a whiteboard somewhere, and people are going through the process here. Okay, we tried that, and they may try it again. But I think, when we had our conversation with Professor Morandi, which obviously is very pro government, which doesn't surprise me, is that they've learned a lot of lessons from the 12-day war. And it's something that George and I constantly lament. And I think we should press Professor Morandi a little bit more. All this infiltration that goes on, okay? As a result of the 12-day war, a lot of people working for the Mossad, they were exposed and probably eliminated. But apparently not completely. They're sleeper cells waiting for something like this. If there was a kinetic attack by the United States and Israel on Iran, these other cells would become activated. This is a very serious problem for Iran.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm not sure that it's come to an end, but we'll obviously.
I said climaxed. Okay.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that. I mean, obviously,
we'll see.
We're in the
Hey, the internet is down. Okay, it's very murky right now.
Right, it's very murky. We don't know. I mean, there is an information blackout, so it's always just very difficult to determine. But to answer the question about the false flag, there's always the danger of that. I mean, you have to say that this is something that CIA, Mossad, MI6 are very, very good at. Stage the false flag attack, whip up hysteria. They did that with in Ukraine. They did that with Bucha, and of course they did that very effectively during the wars in the Balkans. I mean, one false flag attack after another to whip up the hysteria in the West and demands for intervention. So I think that's always a possibility. The question then is, what is Trump's plan? And we saw him. We listened in great detail to his remarks aboard Air Force One, and I'm not sure that he really wants to go down this path of launching missile attacks on Iran. There's for him. There'd be no wins in that. I mean, you're not going to achieve anything. What do you achieve by launching?
Well, but George,
it's only going to rally the people to the government. I mean, it always does.
But you gave a unique theory why he would do it.
Yeah, no, that definitely. I mean, I think that is a possibility, but it's not like
that could be the tension right there. I agree with you. Okay, because what is the immediate upside? What does it mean winning? That's kind of hard to describe. It's a big country, okay?
It's a big country, but that's why I still think there's a possibility. I'm not saying this is going to happen or anything, but there is a possibility that he's going to try and work out a deal with the current government. And, who knows what kind of thing. So he's going to try the Venezuela model with Iran, which is okay. Change some of your policies, and particularly on the issue of enrichment, and then we'll ease up on you. We're going to ease up on the sanctions. Like, I'm not saying that. But
the problem I have.
He can then say that's a win. We got something from out of this. So that's why I think the Venezuela model was a clean thing for him. Start bombing, randomly. That's not clean. That only leads to worse disasters down the road.
However, there's many people who say, and George, you and I know it probably better than most of our viewers, by the virtue of our age. Um, this is how can you pass up this opportunity? We might not get it again. This is the mentality right
Yes,
now.
I
It's
agree.
not- and and I think at least we're in agreement more broadly that Trump is in a hurry. He
Yes,
wants to create as many political facts as possible, and make them irreversible.
right.
Look, if and when most likely Trump takes Greenland, do you think a Democrat coming in January 2029 is going to say, "Oh, let's give it back"? No,
No,
they
of
won't.
course, no, of
No,
course.
they won't.
No,
Okay.
that's absolutely right.
He wants to
Um,
create political facts that are irreversible. He's obsessed with his legacy, and there are plenty of people around him just by virtue of the entire political culture
yeah.
of virtually my entire life is to take out the regime in Tehran. And
Well,
many
yes,
say this is our chance. This is our chance.
that's right, and that's why um, the most effective way of doing that would be some kind of a change in personnel, and since we think we're in agreement that Iran has been thoroughly infiltrated, there may well be some figure that we don't yet know about who is America's man, would be ready to step in, and like Dulce Rodriguez. We didn't really think that, but she'd obviously impressed
Oh,
uh,
I mean,
for a number of years. So
yeah.
there may be somebody in Tehran that the Americans have been grooming who could at least keep the clerics happy, keep the secular people happy, and that would be a clean bill rather than have chaos. And I agree that that's obviously that's what the Israel lobby wants. They want complete chaos, but I don't know whether Trump necessarily wants to go there.
I'll put it this way. Have they identified an individual or individuals that could do exactly what you said? I'm sure they're doing all of those things, George.
Yeah.
I think that the Iran desk is they're very, very busy. They're always very, very busy. They have plenty of have a huge budget. This is a foreign policy priority of Israel.
Yeah.
Israel has
Yeah.
huge sway in
Yeah.
American foreign policy in that part of the world. I think all of those things are in play, but I firmly believe, and I hope I can, so many things that George and I talk about. Always want to. I wish I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. Okay, but I think that they're going to see this as an opportunity that they will not get again. This is the most rhetorically, at least, and probably in action, pro-Israel president the United States has ever had. They want. Trump could get a shellacking in the midterms, most likely, and so
Right.
they're saying, "Look, the clock is ticking."
Yeah. No, I think that, I think it's a very good point, and I think that there are these very influential voices, and as we were discussing earlier, Trump has shown himself to be more than eager to play along with these Zionist interests, and as I said, I think that he has a pecuniary motive for that.
Yes.
He's got a lot. He's going to have a lot of legal bills ahead of him, and you can see that. Well, that's an interesting question. Was he's going to go for that, which is chaotic? I mean, this is going to be total chaos as a result. If it leads to a collapse in Tehran. I mean, it's bigger than happened in Iraq. I mean, Iran's much bigger
Well, George, let's look at the recent record. Hezbollah had its back broken.
Yep.
Assad is gone. Maduro is gone.
Yep.
Um,
No question. Yeah.
Big stuff going on right now.
Yeah,
Okay,
no, absolutely.
I don't think this is going to be the norm for this year. It's going to be the norm until November, metaphorically. I'm saying because that's the midterms. Buckle up and brace for impact.
That's right. Buckle up. It's going to be a bumpy year. Anyway, so Cynthia has another question. It says Rosatom's $9 billion deal for Turkey's first nuclear plant shows how Russia's uses state backed financing to lock in long term energy influence. one of the most powerful tools in any hegemonic toolkit. So, given US economic power and dollar dominance, why hasn't the US adopted a similar loan model to secure nuclear partnerships abroad? Surely the US hasn't amassed so much debt or mismanaged it so badly that it can no longer afford to project financial dominance anywhere in the world anymore. Has the US not signed nuclear energy programs with other countries? I don't know. I mean,
Oh, I
with
think
the US, I mean, the only thing that matters for the US is you don't do enrichment on your territory. But I don't know whether the US necessarily would be opposed to building power plants anywhere in the world. I mean, Turkey is not asking for nuclear enrichment on its territory, so I don't know whether that would be a problem.
Well, it's I can at least shed light on the Russians. And the Russians are really good at it. Okay,
Russians are very good at it.
they have a very long history, a good track record. I had a woman working for me for a number of years. Her father did it for Pakistan, Syria, stuff like that. I mean, and that was during the Soviet era. So they have a lot of experience, and it's good basic technology. Okay, and
Right.
the Russians are very kind of old fashioned. You know, they keep improving what works. They don't reinvent the wheel. They just say we have a good experience with this, and we can improve it, improve it, improve. And that's their developmental model.
Right. No, I think that's right. So the nuclear plant, but I don't know that the U.S. doesn't help build nuclear power
I didn't
plants.
address that. I didn't address that. Right.
Yeah, which I don't know. Yeah, Russia does do that, but at the same time, with Turkey, that in itself isn't going to affect Erdogan's policy. I mean, Erdogan, as we know, is somebody who plays both sides quite skillfully, and it's never one deal that's going to sway him. He Turkey is a member of NATO, and I always have to think not only is Turkey a member of NATO and in good standing and has no intention of leaving NATO. Um, Turkey also has, is a key, a strategic, geographically strategic. It controls the Dardanelles, and so therefore that it controls access to the Black Sea. That gives Turkey an awful lot of leverage. But Erdogan pursues his own agenda. Sometimes he favors Russia. Often he doesn't. And one of his agenda is clearly to influence Turkic influence in to increase Turkic influence within Central Asia. I mean, he sees these are all Turkic peoples, and he wants to be the leader of the Turkic peoples through in Asia.
And he would like to have the new caliphate also.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then it's always thought in terms of, yeah, hey, I'm the real leader of the Islamic world, not the Riyadh.
Turkey's foreign policy is one of the most fascinating countries to follow because they have their fingers in so many things, and it's by virtue of the fact that it is a middle power. So it's a lot more adroit.
Yeah.
Okay, it can move quickly on its feet because sometimes everyone gets burned. Well, won't do that again. Try something else. Okay,
Right.
I mean that's very, and it's just not Erdogan. It's going to be Turkey. Turkey, its foreign policy reflects its interests. Okay,
Yes. Yes.
and so keep an eye on Turkey's or Turkia, I guess we're supposed to say. It's fascinating to watch and infuriating sometimes too.
Right. No. Exactly. It's extremely annoying. I mean, let's say you're Armenia, where you lost Nagorno Karabakh. I mean, that was Azerbaijan and Turkey together, and they basically took it away from you, and there's not a great deal that you can do about it. And so this, he always has these ambitions, and Azerbaijan is part of that. And of course, he's a very slippery guy. Talks a long and loud about Israel.
Oh, right, yeah. While exporting energy to it, yeah, right.
Exactly. Exactly. But anyway, our time is up. So thank you very much, everybody who joined us. Thank you so much for all of your really interesting, fascinating questions and comments. And we're going to be back next week, obviously. Then you got to think about the dogs because I can hear how angry they're getting, because they're very focused on money. That's their outlook on the world. So thank you for everyone who managed to put something into the tip jar. That keeps them happy for a little while. We'll be back 10 a.m. Next Monday, and please join me tomorrow for my solo live stream. 3
And
p.m.
maybe next week during the live stream, I will tie a bow tie for everyone. We'll see.
Actually, I'd like to see that because I've never known how to do that.
Okay.
I would like to see that. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. See you next week. All the best. Bye bye.